Hello and welcome to Are You Experienced, the podcast all about the business of experiences. My name's Joe, I'm the founder of Cavea, and we're getting a slightly different perspective this week as I'm chatting to Damian Norman, the founder of Immerse London. Immerse London is the first of its kind development with the vision to create a new entertainment district in London dedicated specifically to immersive entertainment. Despite us talking at length about HVAC and toilets, I promise this is an extremely fascinating conversation and one that has a raft of insights for anyone thinking about how to put on a show without infrastructure and ops costs spiralling out of control. Hope you enjoy, settle in, and on with the show. Damian, hello. Welcome to Are You Experienced?
Pleasure to be here, Joe.
So you are a first sitting member of the Blue Loop 50 immersive influencers that we've had. We did have George Wood on earlier in the series, but he wasn't on the list at that time, I don't think. So technically you're the first. So that's a coup for us. But hopefully it kind of sets up what we're going to be talking about today, which is a really interesting career in events and experiences, but more recently leading the charge in the immersive sector with your work at Immerse London. So let's start off at the beginning. Walk us through your career journey so far, but also what was the sort of kernel that made you take the leap into immersive, or sort of back that immersive horse, if you like.
Sure. Okay. Well, look, it's a pleasure to join you today. Oh God! Anybody that knows me knows that I'm the opposite of the tall, dark, silent type, and you have to keep reins on me because I this could easily be 3 hours. So very, very, very quickly studied business and marketing university. Went into marketing because I wanted to draw pictures and wear jeans. And it's never really changed. Ended up going into B2B marketing for a conference company, and then a B2B exhibitions business, and then flipped over to consumer with the ski and snowboard show for Daily Mail Group, and sort of really found the forte, my forte in the consumer stuff that enjoyed the B2B, but the consumer just was a lot sexier, a lot shinier, a lot more interested in dealing with changing brands and public perceptions of brands, and attracting tens of thousands of people to events. So the ski and snowboard show in London was probably the sort of the makings of my career, and turned around a failing show under the Daily Mail Group, under the Daily Mail brand, which is a challenging brand at the time in ski and snowboard, and moved it to Metro, and Metro newspaper was a big thing in London, and I think attendance went from about 26,000 to just under 50,000, and sort of got a lot of confidence through that, and changed the financial sort of well-being of that show around. Then took on the portfolio, which was the outdoor show and the then Vitality show, as well as a ski and snowboard magazine. And through a timing and a random sort of set of events at 29, I ended up buying the business from the Daily Mail Group and raising private equity with a consortium of private investors, and formed a business called Voss Media, which we didn't spend millions on brand consultants. Voss stood for Vitality, Outdoors and Ski, which is the 3 products we bought. And we launched the London Bike Show during that time as a small business. And that from launch ended up being 55,000 visitors within 3 years, I think, at Excel. Wow. And developed a real relationship with Excel and the team there. And then we launched a high-end bike show called Rouleur Classic, which still runs today. And then we sold to the Daily Telegraph in 2013. And I was there for 5 years in the end, supposed to stay 3. I was part of the senior leadership team. And then I exited that deal on year 5, become a father and turned 40 all in the same month. It was a big month for me. I remember that. Took some time off, asked my wife if she wanted me to help raise our son, Ethan, for 6 months. Does that fill you with dread or excitement? She said both. And then after 5 months, she said, right, well done. You really need to go back to thank God. Thank you. She said, you're starting to drive me mad. I was a young MD. I had a lot of responsibility very young, and I just didn't want to be a CEO or MD again, not ever, but straight away. So I set up a consultancy business and picked up some clients, of which Excel was one of them. I knew the CEO, Joe Maurice, is still in post now, and the chairman, Kevin Murphy, well, and they asked me to do some consultancy on a couple of things, and one of them was the Formula E World Championship, and successfully led a bid to bring that to London, creating a world first indoor-outdoor racetrack. And since then, we've run 5 of those. And we had a long discussion about what else, and Crossrail was coming at the time, now known as the Elizabeth line. And Jeremy said that he wanted to look at a play in immersive entertainment. Well, not immersive entertainment, just in entertainment.
Right. Yeah.
What do you want to do? And he said, I don't know. That's kind of what I want you to figure out. I was like, okay, sounds like an interesting project. So that's an abridged version of how I've ended up in this world talking to you, really.
Yeah. Brilliant. And so what was the kind of the consulting work that you were doing then for the Formula E and things like that? Like actually kind of running obviously you led the bid, but what was the kind of more operational role that you had?
It was, I mean, putting a 200-mile-an-hour motor race through a venue it takes far smarter operational technical people than me. So a lot of it, I sat in a room trying to keep it viable and on track, but also learning huge amounts about downforces of cars and about stopping distances and uplift and downlift, and how if a track is a centimetre or less than a centimetre higher, that they're going to get that uplift, and that might mean that you definitely need frogmen in the dock because one of them might flip over. You know, all these terrifying things where you're just thinking, this is a really bad idea, we shouldn't do this. And yeah, amazingly it works. Thanks to really, really bright people. 2 people in my team, Tom and Rachel, absolutely learned motor racing and track overlay and all of the bits that go with it. I mean, we have to put a poly resin down on the exhibition floor to give grip. And we worked out that we could put that down and it's stayed for the last 5 years, but they actually have more grip inside the halls than they do outside of the halls. So the drivers had to adjust to that. And then all the lighting needs to be the same lux levels as at least as outdoors. Otherwise they're coming in and they've got different light changes. So all of these things, from if it's raining on a track or if it's dry, and all of these different possibilities. But we're now 5 years in on Formula E, and touch wood, it's worked brilliantly.
Very cool. Very cool. Nice. So you're now obviously leading the what is not unique, but kind of one of the most ambitious immersive entertainment projects in the world. This sort of location for multi-tenant immersive experiences at Immerse London. So can you kind of share a bit about the vision for that project, and how it's gone so far, what success looks like in the future?
So pre-COVID, I started looking at the space, and my colleague and I had met with Secret Cinema on a few occasions, and I'd been an early adopter of Secret Cinema and Punch Drunk, which I think it's probably fair to say that they were the pioneers in the space, and they're 15 years old. So it's not an old industry; it's a very young industry.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll come on to later. The way that
I think I went to a secret. I think it was Lawrence of Arabia. I went to.
Oh, we were at the same
Ali
one.
Pali.
Yeah. I mean, I forgot how long that film was, and
yeah, exactly. And it was all on the floor.
Yeah, and my left bum cheek fell asleep after about 30 minutes. And I was thinking, I know this film, and I've really enjoyed the sort of Bedouin side of things and all of that, but I'm probably not going to stay 3 hours.
That exactly the same experiences.
But it was great. You know, it was Ali Pali, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, it was Ali Pali. That's right, and it was incredible. I remember thinking, I was like, "This is the future." But then, an hour into Peter O'Toole looking moody on screen with my bum asleep. Yeah, like you say, I think that was probably enough for me.
But it felt very underground and that you were a part of this thing. They didn't tell you where it was, and
it really was secret at that point, right? It was
yeah,
you
and the internet wasn't as sophisticated as it is now. I mean, like, I don't think you can keep. You just couldn't do it now. And also, I think that I think buildings were very different in London. I think there was a large swathe of London that was underdeveloped, and people were willing to do sort of meanwhile deals in a different way. But and then I remember going to Punch Drunk at the a Royal Mail sorting office in Paddington, and it was brilliant. So so we were talking to Secret Cinema, and we were very close to a deal. And I think we were past head to terms, we were into contracts, and I remember having this meeting at our venue, and someone at the end of it said, "I'm a bit worried about this Chinese virus," and everyone went, "Yeah, it's fine." And we talked to each other for about 5 months, and the next conversation we had was about doing a drive-in cinema in our car park because nobody could be inside. I mean, tragic. So we were close, but that we learned a lot about the space by working with them on just all of the huge headaches and the risk of doing these things, and it was just so disproportionate to what might you make out of a profit if everything goes really well. And it's really dull stuff like toilets. Toilets are expensive, painful, problematic, and hard to do for something that you're going to run for a couple of months. Same with HVAC, heating and cooling, and all of that. If you're running something in the summer and you need that venue to be less than 20 degrees, and it's not already equipped with it, it's going to cost you a fortune. It's millions now, millions to cool venues. The same as if you're running something in the winter and you need it to be higher than 18 degrees.
Yeah.
You've got the reverse problem.
Yeah.
It's probably more of a problem, to be honest. So learning about their operational costs and what can be done and how we could work with them to give them a year-round venue that had all of the infrastructure, that could be a big empty box for them to brilliant and do all the storytelling, the theatrical work, the marketing, and all of the brilliant things that they are actually really set up to do, rather than being a developer, which is what they were being asked to do.
Yeah.
Didn't have the layers of expertise to do it.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I've never really kind of considered it that way in terms of the infrastructure sort of build out. So that's super interesting. So what, obviously that's the sort of genesis of it, if you like. How has that kind of developed since then? Is that still how you see it, as like a provider of a year-round black box venue for anyone to come in as a tenant, or are you kind of starting to be more discerning, if you like, about what kind of the right sort of shows for the venue is? What's the vision for the Immerse London brand, I suppose?
Yeah, great question. We've now run 9 different immersive experiences, and you learn a little bit with each one. You understand what works really well, what doesn't work, where the potential pitfalls are, stuff that's some of it's really easy and sometimes it gets missed, and through our partners, asking questions and watching how they do certain things. So I think the nuts and bolts of what we are is a really, really good, robust venue that allows businesses to focus on the core competency that they have in terms of bin production, dressing, theming, lighting, sound, all of those things that create a magical world that brings, whether it's King Tutankhamun or Elvis, to life at a certain time, in a certain genre, to a certain audience. And all of that stuff that you don't see, the stuff in the ceiling, the toilets that aren't broken and are working, the temperature of the space, and all of that sort of resilience that goes with it. That's what we provide.
Mm.
Now, I think as we go into the next evolution of Immerse London, there is the next stage of what we do, which is about, we built the destination now, and now it's about becoming a destination. So that's continued investment, that's looking into promotion and ticketing, that's creating meaningful partnerships across partners that we already work with, like London and Partners own Visit London. But also beyond that, there's a number of different partners that are very interested in working with us, whether it's major financial groups or hoteliers that have considerable databases that want to then be able to work with us and offer bundled ticketing and different things like that. So that's it's not a straightforward world to get into. It's one that we're being asked to be able to provide, and it's one that we are now making strides to find the right partners to allow us to do that. But if you take, for example, we own 2 hotels on campus. We've got the Aloft 4-star hotel, and we've got the Hilton Doubletree. So with that, and working closely with those guys as partners, if you can book a room at best rates possible, and you can book an evening at Elvis, or you want to go to Pompeii or whatever it is, we can partner with them and put sort of welcome notes in the rooms, and maybe a little piece of merch from the show talking about how excited they are to see them, and trying to use that home campus advantage.
Interesting, yeah.
That visitor experience. It's always the small stuff, isn't it? It's always being able to try and make those customers feel more special. So from us, very clearly, there will be the next evolution of how we continue to promote things, move into the next opportunity with ticketing and meaningful partnerships to help sell tickets for our tenants to different shows.
Yeah.
And then the next part is activation of the water and the various opportunities that we've got to do that in a very unique part of non-tidal Thames.
Yeah.
And then the wider estate, we're looking at building further spaces beyond the 166,000 square foot of immersive space that we already have.
That's really fascinating. As you know, we've done some work with a couple of the shows down there, and that waterfront is such incredible, you know, just real estate, right? So the idea of making it more of a destination or hub and sort of other food and beverage opportunities feels just like such a kind of a win for the shows down there, right? To be able to give people a reason to dwell and maybe go and see a couple of different things while they're there, rather than this kind of in and out traveling there purely for the show, is what I mean. So that's really interesting. Is there any scope to I was down at the O2 on for the Hot Wheels monster trucks on the weekend.
Yeah,
and obviously there's the cable car. So is there any scope for like some kind of bundling or partnership with the O2 because you know it's not a crazy distance when you think about the cable car, right?
Completely, and we're, you know, they're friends and partners. In London, I think our businesses are very, very different, and there is small crossover, but you know they're incredibly good at being a music venue, and us retail more and hospitality. And I think that it's an East proposition. I was with the London City Airport team a few months ago, and there was a conversation about the fact that the Elizabeth line comes to Custom House, but it doesn't go the 800 meters to London City Airport. You have to get on the DLR, and it's another 15 minutes, and it seems like such a missed opportunity. And of course, it's probably another £3-4 billion or whatever it is, 7 years. So
please, no more Crossrail development.
that whole conversation about could we put an electric taxi service or a complimentary ferry that goes from the airport and lands on our waterfront, Immerse London, means that you can directly pick up the Elizabeth line, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever done Venice, but where else in the world could you arrive at an international city of London standing? London City is such an amazing airport. Walk
Yeah.
straight off of that, get on a boat, and you could be sat in a bar in Immerse LDN looking at the sunset within
Yeah.
10 minutes. So
Yeah.
but then going back to your original question on the cable car, we get a lot of people that come to Immerse LDN and use the cable car and go over.
Yeah.
Now, the Silvertown Tunnel was just opened in autumn of last year, and what previously you'd get the cable car over, it would close at 10:30. So if you were going to a gig or something, you'd have to get a cab back round, and it would take you half an hour. I did it before Christmas with the family, and it took 7 minutes.
Oh,
The
wow.
tunnel.
Right.
So all of our hotels and our campus are suddenly much more accessible to the O2, which really only had the Intercontinental on campus. But it also means that it's much more open for you to come and spend a weekend, which you might take in Immerse LDN one evening, and then you might go to a gig or like a social, you might go shopping or whatever, and you might get the cable car, you might get the Uber boats down along the Thames. It's really opened it up, and for international visitors, if you're coming into London City Airport, what an arrival. You could get on that water taxi, you'd be at Immerse LDN within 10, or you'd be at a hotel on the campus, and then you've got a world-class music venue, a cable car ride away, with a world-class immersive entertainment district. So it does propose quite a unique offering. That I think I'm not really sure there's a comparable. When you look at cities of our size, you look at Paris, you look at New York, there's nothing like that in terms of connectivity and the ease of it and everything else. That entertainment being so close. So I think it's untapped. It's something that we're looking at for the future, and we'd like to sort of look at how we might work on those campaigns.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, I think I'm sort of relatively new to the space, which is sort of the point of this podcast, but the one that gets the most sort of coverage is the Area 15 thing in Las Vegas, right? And obviously that's kind of what you're talking about, right? Is you've got Area 15, but then it's supported by the fact that there's the whole of the Las Vegas Strip, to kind of to offer that as that's one day of your trip, but then you've also got other stuff to do throughout. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, Area 15. I mean, I took a lot of inspiration from what Winston Fisher's achieved at Area 15. I've been a couple of times. I thought it was nothing less than inspirational in turning a nondescript bit of land between a parking lot and an auto parts garage that's 10 minutes from the Strip, and then to have the scale and ambition to then build the second district and all of that. And they have really rolled the dice in terms of building their own proprietary ticketing system and all of the elements that they've wrapped around the original, which was the Meow Wolf Omega Mart, which I loved. So yeah, the difference is Vegas is a very, very different proposition to somewhere like London, in that I think it's 700,000 people come in over from Thursday and Friday in through the weekend. What they call the blow-ins, aren't they? Like people go there to gamble and go to a show and Sin City and everything. But you do have a population there, but it's nothing like what London and the UK is. Our journey time is 1.5 hours, but if you look at something like Have a Voyage, for example, they've got a 32% repeat visitor, and they do have international visitors, but people are coming back to London. London is a repeat visit city, and I think that we have a far greater wheel of opportunity, but we also have a bigger pool of competitors, and everybody vying for that leisure spend and the eyeballs over here. But Vegas at the moment, I don't know if you're familiar with the numbers, but they're really struggling number wise.
Yeah, absolutely. Sort of think
all noise
down 8%. I think
down what?
8% year over year or something like that.
I've heard a lot bigger than that.
There's a couple of things that have come out of these podcasts so far. And one is this balance between, I talk about it in relation to sport a lot, but this balance between short-term kind of extractive, profiteering, if you like, versus this focus on lifetime value and like you say, Albert Voyage, like return visits and kind of customer lifetime value essentially, rather than profit today. And that seems to be, I think, with Vegas, what the issue is, right? Is that it's become so expensive, and even I think places like Disneyland are struggling with this as well now, right? The tickets have reached a point where there was an article in the Times the other day about the middle class feel priced out of things like Disneyland even. So, I mean, the World Cup actually is the best example of this, right? They've just released all the ticketing for that, and it's like, it's crazy, but it just ignores this idea of brand and fandom and like kind of, well, actually, if you can get a kid to the World Cup in the US, if you're FIFA, you get a kid to go to a World Cup game in the US, experience that, become a lifelong fan of the sport and of a team and so on and so forth, then the lifetime value of that fan is massive relative to the short-term dopamine hit of the a $3,000 ticket.
Look, I mean, to talk specifically about the World Cup, I think there's probably three things. The first is, I think America is quite a unique ticketing landscape. I think that it wasn't proven to be a monopoly because it went to Monopolies Commission, but a deal that happened a while back has, one would argue, pushed prices considerably up. If we look at Broadway, for example, I think its average price of a Broadway ticket is $400 now. I was talking to someone that said that a break even on a Broadway show is about $20 million now, and that's just remarkable. It felt post-pandemic that everything just really got very, very expensive. I think we bought 2 Jack Daniels and Cokes in the Sphere, having paid $160 to watch the film, and they were $85 for the 2 of them. I mean, you pick a number. It was genuinely incredible, and I think that. But I don't think, if you look at the West End, there's a lot of American tourism coming to the West End to go and see a show that they couldn't go and see on Broadway or refused to part with $600 a ticket. And has gone, right, we'll fly there, go to London for the weekend, we'll fly back, and it's better. I've met some friends who've done that. But I do think, and to answer the point on the World Cup, I think that shame on FIFA. Shame on FIFA for allowing. I think I read something that said they'd priced these tickets at what they were selling at on via GoGo, because they were like, well, these are what they go for anyway, so why don't we sell them at this point and make more money, without for a second thinking about people that are traveling from countries that have got far less disposable income. And if you've got 2 countries that are playing a match in New York, and that they've been completely priced out of the market to go there, and they're not, like the kind of the superstar teams, they're not going to fill that stadium with those kind of numbers. And then you go into fire sale, but because people haven't booked flights and people aren't staying there, you can see that you're going to end up with a fire sale on tickets. You're going to end up with half empty stadiums if you don't. But then you're not going to have audiences that are, covered in the colours of that country, banging a drum, living it and doing everything they can to help them progress to the next stage. You're going to lose so much of the magic of that if you just fill it with people that can afford $700 to watch 90 minutes of action. It's fundamentally wrong, and shame on FIFA for allowing that to be a thing that then happens.
Yeah, I agree. It's particularly with the World Cup, it's just so against what it's all about, right? Like you say, and I think that's what it's interesting, because Qatar was almost the opposite of that, right? There was other reasons, obviously, why everyone was up in arms about Qatar beforehand, but the sort of TV pictures of fans in the stadiums was incredible. You had huge crowds from countries all over the world that even at previous World Cups you hadn't really seen to that extent. So yeah, really interesting. But again, then that, I think that in stadium experience as a result of that, like we just said, if you see that on TV, then that uplifts the brand and makes that something that people want to be a part of and experience. So it's just short-sighted, I think, to treat the in-stadium experience as this extractive thing rather than as a kind of a crucible for fandom, basically.
Completely. And there's more than enough money in football. FIFA.
Yeah.
There's so many sponsorship opportunities, so much money awash in football. Anyway, we could go on for.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's go back. Okay, so let's go back to this idea of location and kind of what you're trying to do at Excel, which is create this sort of district for immersive entertainment. From other conversations that we've had, we've spoken a lot about on this show. I mean, so I've spoken to people about this idea of IP and format being really important. That a format is suitable for a particular IP or for that fandom. But the third leg of that stool in terms of like what drives success is location, right? So that's the sort of the recipe has to be the right IP for the right format if there is an IP, and it has to be in the right location. So how important do you see location and that kind of sense of place as to the success of an immersive show?
Yeah. What do I think? I think that so the ABBA Arena is not a very good location. It's not particularly accessible. It's quite a long walk. You're going through a shopping centre or you're getting out of Pudding Mill Lane, and the number of visitors and the visitor reviews for that show, absolute cojones of Pop House to have spent that much money and broke a new genre of entertainment. It always blows my mind. But if you look at the reviews for that show, it absolutely screams to me that the product comes first, unless you're going to put it on the Isle of Skye or something and make it really hard to get to. Product will if the product's right, people will go to it. That said, if you've got good transport accessibility, if it's one train, if it's a simple, I can get there by doing that, it makes a big difference to your absolute partisan, some of your tourists and your more sort of fence sitting attendees, and that comes down to the IP. Not everyone's got ABBA and a tech budget like they had. So I think that it is a blend of the two. You've got to have a product, and look, let's talk about the product. Whatever it is, you live and die by reviews. 92% of people in this country read reviews before they part with any money on any ticketing or anything like that. So if you've got a £10 million marketing budget and you've got a Google rating of 2.6, your marketing budget, all it's doing is pointing everyone to a 2.6 rating. People trust what other people say. They look for authenticity in those photos. We've all done it on the TripAdvisor before we book a holiday. You look at all the lovely photos on the website and you're like, that's nice. You want to see the one where there's a half-eaten cheese sandwich that's gone mold in the corner of the restaurant, or where something's broken, and then you accumulate all these data points and you go, actually, on balance, I've read 40 of these and they seem like my people. And actually, I want the non-glamorous photos, and I want to see people going to this and what they think and what their day out is. Exactly the same for shows. So the product has to be right. It has to be the thing that has been delivered right. And if you haven't got it right in the beginning, change it. Be bold, listen to people, be humble, change the products, listen to what your audience is saying. Don't, if you've got a show that's under 4 stars, it is not lasting a long time. It's like restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Peer-to-peer reviews change bad food. And you can smell all the false reviews, and we've seen all of that and everything else, right? So I think the product has to be right, and you need to make your customers feel special. And if you do that, then accessibility is important for everybody that needs to get there. If there's, is there parking? Yes, no. Is it DDA compliant? Yes, no. Does it cater well for buggies and small children if it's a family thing? Does it cater well for older people if they've got mobility issues? Does it do all the things that it needs to do? Because it's all going to feed into that review. But the product has to be right, because it can be on the end of your road, and if you know it's rubbish, you're not going. You're not going. Your neighbours have been and said, Joe, that's terrible. You're not going. It doesn't matter how close it is. You're not going. You're not spending money on it.
Yeah, interesting. So, but by that answer, the location really is the distant third, if you like. So product and making sure that the concept and the execution of that concept is something people want, first of all, and that it's executed in a way that is, the best possible expression of that concept. I think that's kind of where people seem to get us, and I'm sort of leading the witness a little bit because of what we do.
Venue first, but if they mention the venue first, it's very rare that someone sit and go, "Oh, the temperature of that experience was fantastic," or "They are the nicest toilets in immersive entertainment," which I think we do have, or the greenery and planting was immaculate, and actually, someone had jet washed in the morning. They're just they don't see all of those things because they all work and they're great. But when they go wrong, that's the thing that people see first. If it's boiling, so there's another venue in London that have got real challenges on their heating and cooling. If you see the reviews, it's like the number one thing that comes up, because if you've got small people and they're too hot, they're too cold, ruins the whole experience. If you've got older people that's too hot or it's too cold, they struggle in the heat, it's going to ruin the experience. And everyone in between, if you've got, if the toilets are all blocked, or if the restaurant next door charges £5 for a rubbish cup of tea, that's all the stuff that takes it from 4.7 to 3.7. And if they've had bad customer service, if all those bits, they add layers to it.
Yeah. Interesting. And so there's a huge amount of risk then in that, and on that launch moment, right? So again, and this is sort of leading the witness a little bit, like I say, but because of what we do, but that's an observation that I've made, is that given the amount of that people live or die by reviews, there's a huge opportunity to put more kind of strategic rigor into that pre-launch process, right? So, and we're figuring out ways. Obviously, we've got our analytics product that allows people to test things once you've got a show to test. But just the idea of kind of strategic insight and concept testing, and putting ideas and things in front of potential audiences to sort of de-risk that moment where it's like, okay, here it is, and then that's a 2-star show, and then the dream's dead. Just seems like there's an opportunity there for the industry, because there's not as much of that happening as I was expecting, is my observation.
And look, you do test audiences and you run it on lower capacities from the beginning, and you do test nights and different things. Problem is when you've built it and you spent millions building this thing, very hard to change, very expensive to change. If you've cast something and it's going to a certain script and everything, very, very hard to change on the hoof. It's and it's expensive, and you've sold tickets in advance. So when do you change it? How do you change it? So I would implore anybody that's looking and moving in the space, go and see as many things as possible. Go and see as many things that are badly reviewed as things that are well reviewed, and draw those data points from each one. I feel very strongly that you have to make the audience feel something, and the goosebumps side of things. I love that word. I think that if you can give someone goosebumps, I think then you're on the right track. And it doesn't need to be, and it isn't just about one genre and making people feel a certain things. If you're in horror, make people really scared, like scare them silly. If that's the thing that you're saying you're going to be, if you want someone to feel, if it's really profound and you want someone to be deeply moved by something, you want them to be sad, or you want them to be really thoughtful or nostalgic, like, give them that moment. And if you want someone to feel moments of joy and happiness, and you need, what is it that gets people to that level? All of your brilliant analytics and things, that people have to feel something. And if you don't make them feel something and you don't connect with them, it's very, very hard for people to come away and go, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
It's very hard for people to write really positive things. When people do that naturally, that means that you've got something really, really good.
Yeah.
I think that people are more inclined to warn other people off of an experience when they've had a bad experience than people that have a really good experience. And I think, it's our duty to tell people things are great when they're great. We don't necessarily do that. We don't necessarily do it in the same way. I think that the TripAdvisor, for example, can be a real hunting ground for people that want to slag stuff off.
I think that's definitely fair.
You want to bring yourself down, read TripAdvisor reviews on a Monday morning.
Exactly. It's true, that most people write reviews. You get some people who review everything, but it's extremes, right? You've either had literally the best time of your entire life and you have to shout it from the rooftops, which is much rarer than actually something's happened that I've been quite pissed off about. So I want to. It's almost like one in the eye for the person who's pissed you off, rather than
completely. And I think you remember the extremes. You're quite right. I organised a ski trip, and one year everyone gave me a holiday off of it. So it's a guy's ski trip, and a friend of mine, nameless, organised it, and really bright guy, great, but not overly organised, and he hadn't sorted out the hotel. In Courmayeur, we stayed in the 150th of 151 hotels in the resort. It was so bad, brown water coming out of the shower, and we were beneath the ski lift that the stairs started getting on at 4:20 a.m. and it was everything. It was a comedy. It was like 40 towers. And I said to him at the time, I said, this will be one of the most memorable ski trips going. And he said, why? I said, people remember the best and they remember the worst. This will be the worst place that we will ever stay on. And he's like, I'm offended. I said, you're offended. I had brown shower this morning. €250 a night, or whatever it was. But whenever we reminisce and talk about trips, everyone's like, do you remember that hotel that we? It always comes up. But you remember the best, you remember the worst. In the middle, we tend to forget, don't we?
No, and it's obviously we talk about this a lot, but with time and reflection, that's probably become quite almost a positive memory, right? Because it's like with all these things, like you say, that you're not trying to keep everybody happy necessarily. You're trying to create shows that drive impact, and if it is horror, you want to really terrify people, and the ability to do that comes from the very beginning. It comes from like that strategic rigor that I talked about, and it's about knowing who your audience is and not trying to play to everybody and saying, okay, actually, we are for adults because we want to scare their socks off. We're not for adults and also families and also this, that, and the other. So I think you have to choose who you're for.
Yeah. I also know your audience and give them what they want. I think if you say, we're for everyone, well, then you end up with something in the middle, don't you?
Exactly.
If you say we are specifically for Star Trek nerds, or we want, and we will tailor a show to that audience perfectly. And if you're not in stuff, don't come. Literally don't come. We don't want your 3-star review because you didn't get it. Don't come to this.
Exactly.
And go after your market and know your market's there. And also, how big is your addressable market? Don't create a show for an audience of 1.5 million people. If you want to sell 300,000 tickets, it's not going to happen. That kind of stuff is really important. How big is your addressable audience, and do you know how to talk to them? And then if it's there, build them a show that meets all of their needs. And if they're over 60, they need a different kind of show. And if they're under 5, they need a different kind of show.
Yeah. Yeah,
create something for them.
absolutely. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of our time, so I'm going to move on to some sort of broader questions around sort of future outlook for the industry. I'll have to do a bit of a pre-mortem on the experience economy and immersive entertainment in particular as a driver of that is booming. There's the growth is kind of undeniable. What do you think as an industry is the biggest threat to that, other than another pandemic? What's the biggest sort of threat to that trend
Let's
continuing?
have another one of those. They were really bad for
Yeah.
business. I think that oversaturation in the market. Think that I think our current government are doing a pretty good job to make you feel that you're much poorer than what you are, and a sense of doom and gloom and everything doesn't feel particularly bright. And the media then fuel that. So I think everyone feels a bit poorer, especially January. I think like 5 week month after Christmas, and ticket sales are never lower than in these first 2 weeks or first 3 weeks. I think. So I think the mediocre shows that promise the world that don't deliver. I think that immersive is still very embryonic. I think that everyone has been to a West End show and they know what to get. They know what to experience. I went to see Elf the musical with the family over on Boxing Day. Brilliant. Had a great time. Really, really good show. Loved that. But I knew what to expect. I knew it was going to be a small theatre, be a stage and everything else. And because it's sit in your seat, watch the stage, actors, choreography, and everything else. Immersive is very different. I think that you see people bring their family to an immersive show, and people going, "I went to an immersive thing, rubbish, absolute rubbish. I'm not doing that again."
Mm,
And so, well, hold on a minute, hold on. If you went to the West End and you saw a show that wasn't great, would you not go back to the West End?
mm,
Or if you went to your local Odeon cinema and you saw a film that one of my colleagues went to see Marty Supreme, and he was really looking forward to it, and he was disappointed because he said it was a really hard watch. He said he really didn't like Timothy Chalamet's character.
right.
And normally in a sports film, you want the person to win. He's
Yeah.
like, LS because the guy annoyed me so much.
Yeah.
And you'd sit there and go, okay, so you're not going back to the Odeon again. So what do you mean? It's like, well, you're not going to go back, are you? It's like, well, no, of course I'll go back. I'll go and see something else.
Yeah.
And it's trying to change that mentality that if you go to something that's been produced on the cheap, that's trying to make a fast buck and is called immersive, and it isn't very good,
Mm,
doesn't mean that the next immersive show that rolls into town should be tainted with that brush. And I think that's part of the problem in such a young industry that
yeah.
it's the most overused word, says the guy that called his destination Immerse London. But it is overused. Like, you can't go and get a cocktail without it being an immersive cocktail now.
Yeah.
And one of the things I feel really passionate about with Immerse London is that trying to find people that really care about what they produce, the quality of that production, customer service, and how they make customers feel.
Yeah.
And we do that due diligence, and we try and find best in class to do that. And that's not just about working with Hollywood blockbusters. It's also about working with smaller independents. And trying to do that is really important, because at least then if someone comes to something at Immerse London, they come away, it might not be their favorite thing, but they will appreciate the production values, the quality of the acting, the greeting they get, and the way
Mm,
something's been put together, even if the execution isn't what they wanted it to be.
mm,
But I do think it is a big threat to the industry. And I think that, um, you know, the Willy Wonka experience in
yeah.
Scotland, case in point, right? Some guy with some AI and a few bed sheets and some terrible props. The global press that got.
Mm,
Global press, people running up to give it a kicking. And that was then, oh, well, look, that's immersive. Come on, right?
mm,
But it's what we face. It's
yeah.
definitely what we face.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That idea of, I'm trying to think how to frame that, but it's that idea of immersive as a genre being rejected on the basis of people's first experience of the genre, right? Rather than, yeah, that's I'm going to sort of try and develop that a little bit in my head when we drop off. But Okay, so a couple of easier questions, hopefully. What's the kind of the dream IP that you would, obviously a lot of the stuff that comes through Immerse London is IP led, right? So that's or it's stories that people know, like Pompeii is not an IP, but it's kind of everyone's familiar with it. What would you, for you personally, what would be your dream IP to bring to an immersive format?
I hmm, I don't have. It doesn't exist, Joe. It doesn't yet exist. Because one of the things in my head at the moment, a few years ago, I wrote a horror experience way before I was, and I think technology's moved on so much that I would love to see someone come to us that is using AI and all of the tech that is available and using it in a way that you take information from someone at a point of ticket transaction or weeks ahead, and you then make the story personal to them. So if done well, you could terrify Joe Timson in a way that he's never been scared before. From your birth date and death date on a tombstone that has appeared at the end of a story narrative, to someone following you all around this experience, and then you sit in some creepy cinema at the end and you realize that someone's been watching you the whole time, to you suddenly being in the middle of a Victorian operating theatre, and suddenly it's you that's being I don't think that anyone's really scratched the surface of personalized immersive entertainment. Whether that, it might be that you want something from one of the most informative years of our life. I think they're between the ages of 14 and 21 or something. I read, music sounds different. You remember that first film? It's all, it's all deeply nostalgic, and that from the aftershave you were wearing as a kid, or perfume, that those films that you saw, that first school dance you went to, well, it's a moment, and it's a time capsule in your mind. If you put in all of those key things and you wanted to go into a time machine and it took you back to that, and you had photos that you would send and moments with your friends and girls and boys and everything, and just you explain spaces with AI, I don't think we're very far away from you being able to be transported back in time to that moment in a deeply personal way that would make you go, oh my God, I've just become 16-year-old Joe.
Yeah.
Races on, and you
100%.
You could be taken to a period of your life or a moment in the way that you would do that. And I think that there's definitely something in horror. There's something. I mean, you almost want it banned, because it would be so terrifying. You want people going, that this should be banned. It's like films when they banned a horror film.
yeah. And then everyone wants to
do that in immersive really well. You don't need an IP. Absolutely do not need an IP. You need a really, really dark mind with a really, really smart tech person.
Yeah.
And between the two of them, they could create something brilliant. And I think you could expand the personal immersive experience and journey. You could go so far with it in giving people exactly what they want in a format that they've never seen before. I don't think it's far away. I'd love to see someone do that. So if anyone's listening who can do that, come and have a chat, because I'd really, really...
Yeah, nice. Well,
really
there you go.
like
You heard it here first. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. It's, I mean, someone like Facebook are probably the Meta are probably the best place to think about something like that. I've always imagined
they're definitely dark enough to do something truly.
Yeah, definitely dark enough. But they've got the VR, they've got the Oculus stuff, and they've got pictures of everybody at every stage of their lives from 2007 onwards. So it's they're probably already doing it. But the I've always had this image of when VR sort of took off, and because of that, this was before AI, but I assumed that it'd become possible. Exactly what you're saying, but old people sitting in a people zone, rather than staring out the window, you're reliving your 20s in the kind of the VR headset. But
Maybe
yeah,
maybe
Does
we're
it-
going to old people's homes.
yeah,
Maybe the future tech permanently stay 22 for
yeah,
your, for your, the end of life stuff. Brilliant.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, so the final question that I always ask everybody is, who should I interview next, and what should I ask them about?
I mean, there's lots of really, really interesting people that would be a really good person to interview. Do you know what? Do you know Neil Connolly? Yeah, have a chat with Neil. If you think
Okay.
I talk a lot, it just to make me sound not quite so boring. Neil works for Immersive Everywhere. He's creative director, executive creative director. Recently just built the brilliant Traitors
Okay, yeah.
set, and is a deeply likable human being, and he has a very unique knowledge in. He's a great creative producer. When you see what he's done with this building in Covent Garden, but he also fundamentally understands that it's not just give me more money, give me more money, give me more money. I'm a creative. I want to express myself. He understands that there's a business model there, and that intimate relationship between having a job for this amount of time and then not having a job because you've spent 20 million pounds more than you should have done, and that doesn't work on that. So he's a real grown up in around the business table, but he doesn't compromise that to build stuff that doesn't look fantastic. So I definitely chat to him. He's really interesting. He's a lot funnier than I am. And he'd be really good company for you. And he's a Blue Loop 50 as well. So
Right. Okay. Excellent.
ticks your 50 box as well.
Nice one. All right. Well, look, thank you so much for taking the time. Gone slightly over, but it's been really, really interesting. Definitely a different perspective than we've had so far. So yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Cheers.
Cheers.